Hello, Miami. Yes, it is I, back on Fast Break with Jimmy Butler. Is that emo Jimmy next to me? Who is this?
Who is this? I don't know.
Oh, that is the voice of God. Well, actually, you are voice of God. You're in a different time zone. You're in tomorrow. It's already November 8th where you're at, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Oh,
very, very, very late.
oh man. Well, Miami, thank you for tuning in for I believe the first episode of Fast Break in about a month, almost month and a half could be. The season start. I want to say 2 weeks, or let's say 2 weeks, just to be on the safe side. We have Clutch, my man that has been gone all summer. We have him over there on a different time zone. He's gladly joining us. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. We got Justin's that is backstage. I'm gonna let him in at any moment now. We possibly got Rob joining us. We have the start of the NBA season. Due to scheduling conflicts, I haven't been able to host the show for a while. My practice schedules are picking up. Our season starts in November. But obviously, I want to give the opportunity. First and foremost, Clutch, we talked this whole summer, Justin, Neil, Bobby, me. We've done it back and forth. I don't think I ever really got your position. Obviously, I know it's water under the bridge now, but the Dame Lillard situation for you, I just want to touch upon it quick. If you could sum it up for me, how do you feel then? How do you feel now? Anything you want to share from summertime?
So you just want to open up an old wound for me right
Well,
away.
yeah,
I
it's one of
love
those.
it.
It has to be. That's the brotherhood, you know. It's like you haven't seen somebody for a while, you haven't talked to them. You're gonna bring something up that's gonna piss them off, and you're gonna love them either way.
So for anybody that's kept up with me on Twitter,
Hmm.
it was 88 days of my life dedicated, dedicated to recruiting this man to Miami.
Yeah,
88 days.
and you were
I
dedicated, man.
I got him to repost some of my stuff on his Instagram. I did
Yes,
everything I could to make this happen. And Joe Cronin is a freaking war criminal.
and to be now that you say that, and I know they talked about the return you got. And people were talking about obviously you got what do you call this? You got Robert Williams, he got DeAndre Ayton, and then now you compare it to how Hero is playing, how Hawkins is playing, and you're starting to wonder. You're like, did he take the wrong deal just to spite somebody? And obviously, you see Milwaukee's situation where their defense is atrocious, bro. And I've talked to a few people when that happened, and I know they had to trade Holiday. I'm like, I don't think people. It's sexy. It's a sexy trade now, but there's ramifications down the line for this. Their wing defense is going to take a beating. Lopez is older. Middleton is older. You don't really have complementary players aside from Giannis. Like Giannis gets hurt or Dame Lillard missed some times. Like that team is fried. And obviously crazy eyes Bobby Porter's. I don't know what it is. Every time he plays us, like he turns into a different human being. It's like an alien.
He looks like
It's
an
like,
alien too.
he does, right? Like doesn't he look like he could kill someone like just
His
randomly after the game?
eyes scare me. They just scare me.
I don't know if it's a separation like between his nostril, like between his nose and his eyes. I don't know if it's just the size of his eyes compared to his face, but there's something very alarming when he just stares at you. I can assume, like that's not something you just want to run into in the middle of the street, but like, and he just stares back at you. You're like, oh boy, this guy's crazy. This guy's insane. But touching upon that, and Justin, whenever you're ready, I see you in the back screen. Whenever you're ready, let me know. Let's just do a little wave, and I'll bring you in. I miss this man too. Houston. He's obviously he's in the West Coast. I believe he's home. I believe he's home because Justin is our traveling man. He's the network's traveling man. But from afar, Clutch. I know maybe you haven't been able to see all those games. How do you feel so far? The season has started like in the East, West. Has anything that's really surprised you? Any team, obviously, that stunk it up, or any team that's overachieving that you're like, wow, I didn't expect this, or like any player, anything?
I expected there to be. I mean, we'll start where you basically just started the whole conversation. In
Uh
Milwaukee, I thought
huh.
they would. I know they have holes because at the end of the day, in getting a dynamic duo to work is slightly harder than getting a big three to work, which would have happened if Dame came to Miami because you already have
Uh huh.
two other players in place. In Milwaukee, you just have one and Chris Middleton, but I don't think. I mean, the injuries and all that stuff just You don't know what you're going to get with Chris Middleton. Uh,
Yeah, I don't.
but that slow of a start for Milwaukee because they started off pretty slow,
Yeah.
and Dame's numbers are way down. Giannis numbers are down as well from the last time I checked. I don't know
Hmm.
how they did in the last game or so because I've been off, but I'm surprised Milwaukee started a little bit off. I Boston, it was kind of expected.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
they just put talent on top of talent, and it works.
Yeah.
The
And
problem
cohesive talent.
eventually,
They play
yeah,
well off each other.
eventually down the line, I think they're gonna have issues with their bench because they're not very deep at all. But
No. No.
for playoff time, it's gonna be tough for them. But
Interior
right
defense
now,
too. They lack interior
yeah,
defense.
I mean, what they gave up Robert Williams, and Robert Williams was a few of the players in the league that would give, for example, Bam any trouble.
Hmm.
And yeah, they gave up a lot for to get Porzingis in there, who's 7'3" but can't stop anything inside the paint.
Hmm.
So yeah, but I
And
like
aging
what Boston
Horford.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did well for themselves in putting together a really good starting five. Uh,
Absolutely.
after after that, I don't know, but so far it's been working. They're looking good. Um, Philadelphia's been looking really good as well. Maxi seems to be taking another step with James Harden out of the picture. So I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the biggest disappointment so far, I mean, you don't like starting off 1-4 like Miami did,
Oh.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously we're catching up a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's been the biggest disappointment so far. Obviously, you were just in the NBA Finals and you were the 15th, the last seed in the East for like a couple of days. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's early, so I know it's gonna be course corrected, and you kind of see the difference. It's funny because when the game happened, Bobby texted me, and I mentioned it yesterday on East Century Boys. Like Bobby texted me, like, "Yo, they're starting Hackers," and I'm like, "Oh, bro, I don't think they should have started Hackers, man. I think they should have gone with Highsmith, because you kind of take away what Hackers does off the bench. Like you kind of remove him and you put him you just make him a spot up shooter in that lineup the way they did it the first time. And Spo likes to do this. Spo like will tinker with the lineup, and it kind of seems like a little fucked up, like it's off course, but then it course corrects the following game. Usually it comes with a player being removed from the rotation. In this case, Kevin Love, which it might be temporary. He does have a role. He might going to play limited minutes, but Highsmith unlocks that starting spot, that starting power forward, that small point power forward where you're playing small ball. Bam is still kind of your de facto center, but you're playing really three-man ball. And I think you saw it for the first time how cohesively Jimmy, Tyler, and Bam played, where you're starting to see that now distribute their touches, the priority. Tyler almost becomes like your best offensive player. Bam is still your most important player, but Jimmy is still your most valuable player in regards to um, when you need him to guide you, he will guide you. When you need him to get a bucket, he'll get a bucket because the rust is coming off now. I figured we were going to start a little bit slow when Jimmy didn't play preseason and with the whole everything that was going off in the offseason. And when they started Lowry and Love, I'm like, I don't like that combination for a long time. Lowry has proven me wrong. Like I've mentioned a few times, I'll give credit where credit is due. I still think ideally he shouldn't be starting. He should be with a second unit. But by the looks of it, they might run with it with Josh Richardson. I've always entertained the option of honestly making Jimmy your de facto point guard to a point because Tyler can create, Tyler can play off the ball. Bam, Tyler, and Jimmy seem to be getting comfortable where the Heat are using three-man action, which is ideally how you should play, and everybody else feeds off it. You stagger your rotations with Duncan Robinson. You have Caleb Martin coming back from injury, hopefully. Hawkins gives you something you didn't have last year when you took Jimmy out. I like the way Spoelstra is staggering the minutes for Jimmy and Hero to always have one of them on the court, if not both of them. And Bam loves to play with Robinson. So those are situations that I see that in the long run, it's going to benefit. Now, the problem that I see that the Heat have, and they probably need to solve it, is the situation in the fourth quarter. There's a huge drop off in the fourth quarter, and it has to do with how he staggers the lineup to start the fourth, because he always gives Jimmy rest and I believe Bam rest to start the fourth. There has to be a tinkering there where maybe you play Bam or Jimmy, you kind of you prolong the resting process and you kind of play him a little bit more and then you get him some rest, or maybe you can play Bam from the end of the third and maybe the first 2 3 minutes of the fourth, rest him for 3 minutes and bring him back. There has to be something done there in the fourth quarter because there's a reason for that drop off. There's that reason that we struggle once the fourth quarter begins, because it's not even mid fourth quarter or nothing. You see it at the 10-minute mark, 9-minute mark. You see the offensive output start to diminish, and I wouldn't say necessarily. I don't see a problem with other parts of the lineup. I just think that it's, I don't know. He has to find a way to not rest everybody that he wants to rest those first 6 minutes of the fourth or the first 4 minutes of the fourth, because obviously he'll bring back Jimmy like at the 7 minute mark or something like that. So that's something that I feel will be corrected. Are there moves that could be made? The team seems to be getting comfortable. Obviously now with Caleb comes back, that's another rotational spot that you're going to remove someone from, and then you start arguing like, okay, who do you remove? I think I've always thought Jovic eventually could be part of this rotation. For now, until there's some moving pieces, he might not be. But it's a good spot emergency starter to have, even with Orlando Robinson. You might see Clutch in the near future that people start calling for Orlando Robinson to play over Thomas Bryant. And I love Thomas Bryant. He gives you a different dynamic. But defensively, we're starting to see some drop offs at times when Thomas Bryant comes in. And then obviously they're going to compare him to Orlando. Orlando's going to be a serviceable backup, possibly next year. So it's still early. I knew people were going to freak out when we started 1-4. I didn't expect us to start 1-4. I knew it was going to be bumpy because of the injuries and Jimmy's not playing. Now, I'll ask you this. I mean, I think I lost Justin there. I was going to bring him in right now, and I think he had to leave, but I'll wait for him anyway. So when he comes back, I'll put him on because I wanted to ask him this specifically. We've gone on a few years now, a few seasons, talking about the growth from within of this organization, the limit of Hero, Bam. I do believe there's a reason Hero survived another trade. Sometimes I like to think about this like the best move is a move you don't make. I understand the noise that came with Damian Lillard, and I understand Damian Lillard would have been a Heat if it wasn't for Joe Cronin. And you might see even a more motivated Damian Lillard. And I think he would have made, of course, of a difference in this franchise, 100%. But there's also a plus here. And I'm not talking only about Hakes and Jovic, with the young guys developing. And think about this for a second. Jaime, I believe, is 22, 23. Jovic is 20. You have arguably the two best players. If right now, if you had, for the Miami Heat, if you had to vote for All-Stars, Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are your All-Stars, not Jimmy Butler right now this year. Tyler Hero is 23. Bam Adebayo is 26. I People might laugh, but the way the East is shaped right now, you got Tyrese and Joel Embiid. You obviously got the Celtics with Tatum, Brown. People can argue with Holiday, obviously up in age, but I can make a case that out of the East, the two best tandem that I can see succeeding long term are Bam and Hero. And I'm not trying to be a homer here. I'm thinking as a I have my coach's hat on right now. I'm thinking as basketball fit. If my two nucleus guys are 23 and 26 and they're going to be perennial all-stars, all NBA players, I can build around them through the Jimmy years, the post Jimmy years, which is what I've always thought about. I know we're in Jimmy's timeline, but I believe even when we've mentioned it, I'm like, there's a bridge here. Like, you want to win for Jimmy, but you also know what you have in Tyler and Bam. And I compare this a lot. I've always compared this a lot to the Nuggets build with Murray and Joker. Like, it took a while for them to win. I understand the Jimmy acquisition is different in our sense, and I'm not comparing it to them acquiring Aaron Gordon. But I do see the situation with us, like acquiring Jaquez Jr. and maybe Thomas Bryant, as those pieces that could get you over the top. Because I'm gonna give it to you right now, Clutch, and I want an honest response from you. Is there any team that scares you in the East? And actually, Clutch, hold on. I was gonna send it to you, but I'm gonna send it to my man Justin for 1 second. And Justin, come on up. Come on up. We have a visitor from far, far away, Justin. How you doing, man?
Finally, finally. Sorry, guys, I was in the car this whole time. Good to see you, Miami. How you doing? 305.
Till you die. We got Clutch Justin from the other. He's Justin. Clutch is tomorrow already. He's in November 8th, and he sees the future. I already asked him about Dame. Me and you have talked endlessly about Dame. First and foremost, tell me how you've been. Have you visited any other places? And how do you feel this season has started in the NBA? You can tell me your favorite teams all around. Anything that surprised you. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I want to start with the Dame situation. And seeing as he did go to Milwaukee, unfortunately, he didn't come to Miami. But like you were saying earlier, Alex, there are issues that are arising. The defensive issues are bad, but they had to get rid of Drew Holiday to go get him. I'm afraid that if he came to Miami, we would have sacrificed too much depth, and that would have led to more scoring, but a lot more points given up. I will say this Heat season, I've been most impressed with Tyler Hero and how he's leading the team every night and scoring. He put that as like a chip on his shoulder and say, "Hey, look, I'm still your guy. I'm still the guy on this team. I know that Jimmy is the man. I'm still the go-to guy." And I love that. I love that attitude from Hero. I love that he's kind of taking it personal, but he still loves and embraces this organization. By the way, shout out to UD, now a VP of player development, I believe.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's named
Official,
today. The OG,
official,
not the
official.
VP.
Now the VP.
Questions. Yeah. And then as far as surprises, disappointments, surprises, how well 76ers are doing with all the James Harden cloud now off of them. But while it was happening, they were able to kind of tune it out and just say, we're going to play our style of basketball. It's no longer Doc Rivers, it's Nick Nurse, who is proven when you bring him in year one, good things happen. We'll see.
Sure.
And there's not much. The other thing I'm most surprised about is how long it took the Grizzlies to win a game. I know that Jaw's
Oh,
not there, but you remember the last couple of years when he's either been injured or suspended, the Grizzlies don't miss a beat. In fact, they're almost better without him. Now, this year, that's not the case. Maybe they're trying to show that no, Jaw's still a guy. We still need him. We're not going to create some narrative out there to say
I think we lost Justin there for a second. Clutch, can you hear him? Can you hear me, Clutch?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I think we
I'm
lost
back.
Justin there for one
Yeah,
second. You're
let's
back?
not create a narrative here that he's just an extra piece and we don't need him. No, he's our guy still. Hopefully, for his good and Memphis' sake, that they get all this sorted out and he comes back a better man. Other than that, yeah, just hearing some cries from how bad the Lakers are doing here out in LA.
I'm. You know what? I am surprised in regards to the Lakers situation because I I I thought they were going to be top three, top four in the West, and I do believe they could achieve that. And you can have as many complementary players as you want, but even LeBron at this age, and no matter how great LeBron is, and he could be the GOAT, you're a 38, 39 year old player cannot be your most dominant player and averaging 37, 38 minutes a night. It's not a recipe for success. You have a nucleus that should, and I know it's LeBron, but you have a nucleus that should provide some scoring relief, some defensive relief. But reality, they don't have a great defensive team. And I don't think they have a secondary, even with Anthony Davis being your second option, and which honestly at this point Anthony Davis should be your best player. If you're in that situation, if I'm the Lakers, I'm a little nervous because I know I got LeBron James, but Anthony Davis should be my go-to guy. LeBron should be playing 30, 32 minutes a night. He should be my de facto point forward. Give me 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 18 points, 19 points. I don't mind that. But that's in the long term, health wise, productivity wise, it's gonna affect the Lakers, and you might see a drop off. And those are situations that you kind of see from the forefront. And over there also to stay in California, Coach, I'll ask you this because I'll bring it up to you because when the trade happened, a lot of people I figured he was going to come off the bench. A lot of people try to throw off the scenario where they're going to start next to each other. one of the most surprising moves that is actually being successful and has stabilized the team per se is the Warriors acquiring Chris Paul. How did you feel when that trade happened? Jordan Poole is kind of proving that he is who he is, and the Wizards are like a sideshow. Like the Wizards are just going to play ball. They're going to score a lot of points. Like they're just out there to ball. They're not going to play a team basketball per se. They're just out there to hoop. How did you feel about that trade? Because that was one of the ones that surprised me. I figured it could be successful. I had my doubts with how they were going to run them, but how they have it set up right now, I think it's a recipe for success down the line. The Chris Paul situation with the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, when they first acquired him, I just honestly thought that it was a move done to get rid of Jordan Poole and just you're
Yeah,
just taking on a contract, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
as far as it went. But props to Steve Kerr. He found something that makes it work. I mean, and because the good thing is that you have Steph Curry, who isn't just a ball dominant on ball point guard. He can
Hmm.
also move around off the ball.
Yeah.
Plus, you got obviously Klay Thompson moves around off the ball. You have a lot of unselfishness in Golden State, and floor general who can strictly just distribute and get his when it's needed. I mean, I think, like you said, it's a recipe for success for Golden State, and I'm surprised that it worked out that way because, like you said, first I thought he was just going to be a bench player. Maybe he was going to get bought out because he was just a filler for to get rid of Jordan Poole, but no, it worked out. Props to them.
El Jefe watching from afar. What's up, Bobby? Yep. Same thing I said when I saw him.
Yeah,
That's
Bobby just did a
dedication,
double
bro.
take real quick.
Yeah. He's like, wait a second. I guarantee you right now, I was like, did he actually get Emo Jimmy on? And I'm like, no, bro. I don't got that reach. That's clutch, baby. That's clutch from far. Far. When you came on clutch, it should have been like the Star Wars in a galaxy far, far away. Clutch appears in the midnight.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
man,
not emo Jimmy. It's emo
it's
clutch
emo
because of the
clutch.
Dolphins lost on Sunday, but we'll not talk about that.
Um,
Hey, Alex,
one
one
thing
thing
that,
I'd like to
yeah,
bring up.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt here.
No, go ahead,
Let's
man.
also address the elephant in the room, or should I say the giraffe in the room, Victor Wembanyama. How about
Oof.
him? How
Oh
about the
man,
start to the season for him?
dude, he is everything as advertised. Like I said, I still see obviously he's gonna bulk up a little bit. He seems to have the Giannis capability of bulking up because he's very stable. Sometimes he does get tired at times. I understand maybe the fitness the it's not there like pinpoint shape that he will be. Obviously he's played professionally, no 82 game season. So I'm pretty sure the San Antonio is going to monitor certain things down the line, but he is as advertised, bro. He is the most versatile big man I've ever seen in my life. He has a combination of a bunch of players from Giannis to Kevin Durant. And defensively, there's so many things you could do with him because he disrupts everything. He's a high percentage shooter. He seems to be a great team guy, so he doesn't have this egotistical "I am better than you" superstar type of thing that a lot of high picks have. A lot of he seems to be very humble. Obviously, you can tell his upbringing is backs that up. So the future, bro, the NBA is when you see him, he's kind of like the NBA player that you make up like in 2K, so he can dominate. And then you just realize I'm like in San Antonio with that system with Pop and the nucleus that they're gonna have. I would not doubt if they're top four, top five next year already in San Antonio because that kid is that good. He is that good. And they're going to find complements around them. They're going to find complementary players that just plug and play. And honestly, injuries are the only thing that can stop what he can become. And obviously, you don't wish that upon anybody. Like the way like Yao Ming's career was derailed with leg injuries and foot injuries. Like you want him to be healthy, and if they can beef him up a little bit, so he doesn't get pushed around at times. But even that, he makes up for it. So, like, I just see great things, man.
I'll make an even bolder take. Victor Wembanyama is going to contend for MVP as early as next season.
Oh, for sure, for sure, I can see that.
Mhm.
100%.
Maybe even this year, who knows? But I don't see San Antonio as a good enough team yet to contend. Is the only
Yeah,
thing.
No, I mean, if you saw them yesterday, they gave up 160 something points, or 150 something points to Indiana. They just got blown out of the gym. Like they
Mhm.
scored 112 points and they lost by 40. It's like they're not there yet. But honestly, when you say that, Justin, and you compare Victor Wembanyama to when Giannis started, he is light years ahead, light years. And then
Mhm.
the cool concept also, you have, and I know they talked about it a lot yesterday, the Chet Holmgren. You're gonna have that rivalry because they're similar players. Where Chet is a little bit better defensively, he has that that little swag to him. So I love this is what I love about the NBA. And when Jordan was done, Kobe took over. And then kind of like when Kobe was in his prime and in the back part of his career, it already became LeBron's league. Even though you had Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and the Spurs around there, the Heat obviously took over, and then you had the Curry years. Now you see the transition where you have this young talent, and what I love about it is we've talked about this a lot, but for the next, I want to say maybe 5, 6, 7 years, aside from the Nuggets, and you got OKC coming up, you got Orlando coming up in the East. There's a lot of parity with great teams that are going to be competitive, where there's not just one top dog in the NBA. Like you have teams that are complete. You have teams that are very young. Houston is on the rise. That's the one that I want to ask you about. Houston has made great strides in their key signings and the development of their players. The Thompson twins, like this league is full of talent, man. And even in the drafts coming up, there is still more talent coming through that is top tier talent. So you're not going into, oh, we're gonna fall off after LeBron retires, and this league is like, oh my God, we're gonna be lost. No, it's the beauty of it. It's gonna continue. So I just think it's the sky's the limit for him and for the NBA in the coming years. Um, I'll ask you this, Justin. Now that I mentioned the Houston Rockets, how do you feel about what they've done early on and their plan? They're quick. You can kind of like it looks like it was a fast rebuild. It was expedited, a little bit quicker than expected.
Well, I don't know about fast rebuild, quickly expedited. It's been like 3 years of misery, maybe 2.5, give or take. But at least now you're starting to see steps in the right direction where they finally got rid of Steven Silas. And God bless them. He came in expecting to coach James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and he
Yeah,
ended up not getting Westbrook, trading James Harden halfway through his first year, and getting a bunch of young guys. And really, he was instructed by the ownership and the GM to tank because otherwise they were going to lose their draft picks.
yeah,
Now that the draft picks are all going to OKC, there's incentive to start winning now, so they get to keep them out of OKC's hands. And that's when you finally hire a coach who's going to keep these young guys accountable, get them really playing some hard nosed defense, not just playing pick up street ball every night and just trying to chuck shots up. No, he's got a really good defensive scheme. He's no nonsense. So now the Dylan Brooks signing finally is making sense because he's just a big distraction unsupervised. But now Ime Udoka in there, he's none of that nonsense. He's all business. And that's what I do appreciate about that. He's starting to push down like, nah, you can't do these on-court antics anymore. You can't do these just frankly stupid things in the media saying off court. And last thing I'll say on this, you had mentioned too about the Chet versus Wemby rivalry.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons that I hope that we get an expansion team back in Seattle and Vegas in a couple of years because then you've got the opportunity to realign to the divisions. And it only makes sense for OKC to join the Southwest with the Houstons, the Dallases, the San Antonios, geography wise. Because then you could put Seattle and Vegas in the same division as Denver and Portland and all of them. And now you've got the rivalry within the division. That's what we really want.
And I to me the NBA obviously we could talk about this forever. The Sonics should have never been moved from Seattle by Clay Burnett. Um, Basketball is not the same without the Sonics in Seattle. That's the history of the league. If you have an expansion team, and obviously they, I do believe the moment LeBron retires, we will have. I know that is cohesive with the new TV deal and the exclusive rights that supposedly Apple might bid on, Amazon might bid on. We're talking about the billions of dollars and billions and billions and billions of dollars in regards to have exclusive rights to these NBA games. So we're gonna see. even a rising salary cap. I guarantee LeBron retiring, it's gonna be the Las Vegas franchise. It will be the Seattle franchise, and it will be awesome in Seattle. Somehow Gary Payton is involved in the ownership. Sean Kemp is involved. Like that is Seattle as Seattle comes. And in regards to the NBA parity and transition periods, there's something that I want to bring up, and it's kind of like the theme of the show. Officially, it's something that I've been thinking for a few years now when it would happen. And there were at time rumors about, oh, we got to trade for Kevin Durant. I would trade anybody. I would trade Joel Embiid. I would trade Bam for Joel Embiid. I think we are witnessing a transition period where Bam is the face of Miami Heat basketball, where Jimmy Butler is still quote unquote your max player, your go to guy in key moments. But a lot of this offense, a lot of Heat, well, everything through the Heat runs through Bam defensively, offensively. Obviously you got Hero as the perfect sidekick, and Hero is your de facto scorer because that's all you need him to do right now. And don't get me wrong, his defense has improved, and I take that to heart. That shows how much he cares. That shows how much he wants to win. I've never understood this narrative of people trying to smear his name and who he is as a player and talking about Hero sucks. I'm like, if you tell me Hero sucks, you don't know basketball, plain and simple. If you're just repeating something that you heard, okay, I can understand because you have no knowledge. But when you try to double down and explain to me why Hero's such a bad player and he's not an asset, and I'm like, I take it into context of who you have him with. And I think this is the perfect scenario for Hero. Next to Bam, next to Jimmy, next to a veteran point guard at times, with a Hall of Fame coach. And out of everyone, people could talk about Jimmy. If my season is on the line, I want Hero taking that last shot because that man is cold blooded. That man does not care. He's not, and I love that him and Jimmy share that. And at times people have questions Bam's assertiveness, Bam's desire to lead, desire to demand to lead. He was named captain this year. I think that comes with great responsibility and great expectations from the franchise. And you can see him being handed the mantra of you are the epitome of heat culture. I will go down and say that there is a possibility when it's all said and done. Obviously, Dwayne Wade is Miami Heat, Alonzo Mourning is Miami Heat, but we might be looking at Bam being the most important player in Heat history if he retires a Heat, depending if you win multiple championships, obviously because you have the Wade the Wade stratosphere that you probably will never reach. But if there's one person that could reach that stratosphere, I do believe it could be Bam. And I know Jimmy because how clutch is, his playoff performances, how he basically revived the franchise is up there. But Clutch, I'm going to give you first dibs on this. Do you see this happening in front of your eyes where I always figured it was going to be difficult because of Jimmy's persona, but I do feel that he has that in him where he just wants to win. And Jimmy doesn't need to be even the highest paid player on his team. He might have some complex where he's an attention seeker at times. I think he deflects great attention from his teammates. He takes on a lot of the heat. He might be difficult to deal with at times. Obviously, there's sources that have confirmed that to other people that we hear and know. So it comes with the territory. But are we seeing in person, in season, early in season, the transition where this is really is Bam's team? Like Bam is the face of Miami Heat basketball. Do you agree with that? Any counterpoints?
I think Bam has been blessed to be surrounded from the very start of his career by Dwayne Wade,
Uh huh.
by Udonis Haslam this entire time until he retired. And let's face it, Udonis didn't really go anywhere.
No, he's still there.
He was still in practices
Yeah,
before getting officially named VP or whatever. He was still there.
which is awesome
He
when you get a position named for you. That is amazing.
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
he
I love that.
and Bam was also I mean, the wonders that people don't realize that probably Jimmy Butler has done for Bam in
Correct.
being a
Correct.
little bit more tough nose, hard nose, being a winner because that's what Jimmy does. Jimmy wins,
Exactly.
and and he rubs that off on guys like Bam. Uh, but yeah, Bam's just been surrounded by so much. There's no other word to use it. So much culture
Hmm.
that he takes that baton from Udonis Haslam. Udonis was the captain for so many years. He takes that baton from UD. UD, and I mean, UD will tell you he has the mentality of a UD, but obviously way more talented. So now you have a player that can set an example off the court like UD does or you did, and now you have a player that can also set an example on the court because man, you don't have to look far. Look at that Lakers game and look at the stat line he put up, and that's without
First time in
even
any history. First time in any
yeah,
history.
that's without even considering what he did on defense.
And yes,
Because Bam is such an underrated defender. He talked about this in the offseason at length that he's probably like people don't look at him to win defensive player of the year ever because he just doesn't have the block numbers or the steal numbers that he should. But and the voters just don't look at the tape. If they look at the tape, they see a guy who can genuinely guard 1 through 5 all at the same level, like at the same
effectively.
level of yeah, a very effective
Eliteness.
1 through 5
Eliteness, man.
defender. Like you don't have many 1 through 5 defenders in the league, and Bam is probably, if you're talking about true 1 to 5 defenders, he's probably the best one in the league. So I think this, in a sense, this is Bam's team. Obviously, like end of the game, I don't think you're putting the ball in Bam's hands, but you kind of are putting the game in Bam's hands when it comes to defense at the end of games
Yeah.
and making the right passes at the end of games. Maybe not the last shot because you have such a talented scorer with Tyler Hero. Tyler's having so far it's only his short formulas, a short like example, but probably the most efficient stretch of his career. He's not only been scoring, but he's been scoring efficiently. And then you
Yes.
have Jimmy, who's Jimmy. So yeah, you're not going to look for Bam to do any of that, but he makes the right plays on defense. He makes the right passes on the offense, and he makes the right reads of taking the shot when the shot comes to him, and he doesn't force anything. I think that's the perfect player you want on your team.
And this is something that yesterday Bam hit a 3 pointer, and it was pretty cool in the concept of whenever they give you space in basketball, how you hold the team accountable defensively is you take the shot. If they give you the space, you take the shot. When those shots start falling consistently, the defense has to come out and has you have to hold them accountable, and that's what opens up so many lanes for this team. And part of the success that I think we're gonna have this year, and I'll throw this to Justin, and we touched upon it a little bit yesterday. I love the emergence of Max Juice and what he brought to us, but we all figured that Duncan Robinson. We said Max Juice was a little bit more physical. He was a little bit more athletic, a better defender, but we all knew that Duncan Robinson was more naturally gifted offensively than Max Juice. We didn't get a chance to see it last year, and I think for me, it's a little bit on Duncan, and I do believe it's a little bit on Spo. Duncan did go out of his way to become a more complete player, but I can make the argument that Duncan is playing right now the way he was playing with the Skyforce. So also the situation made him play a certain way, made him more one-dimensional player. When you see Duncan out there now, you see a comfortable hooper just playing with his team. And they run so many even ghost screens for him where people forget about him. And he's just putting the ball on the floor, attacking, creating, passing. Out of all those things are cool. His 3 point percentage is like I think at 39%, amazing. But one of the things to me that's most amazing is that he's no longer a liability defensively at times, and he's not committing turnovers. That for a while Duncan Robinson will hit a three, will hit a second three, and a turnover. So now you're kind of seeing the evolution of a player, where now that contract that looks pretty manageable. That looks pretty level in regards to what it's worth. So that contract no longer looks that bad. And you're like, wow, okay, we have a serviceable player, a complete basketball player that is essential for this team. And I know people can call me a homer, and I know it's early, but I still don't see at times a more complete team in the East than the Heat. Maybe the Celtics, because I can look, even the Celtics, I can look at them and tell you where they're going to have issues in the playoffs. Because yes, you got Drew Holiday, which to me is an upgrade over Marcus Smart. Even though Marcus Smart was a heart of their team, you still got White. You still got Porzingis. If he's healthy, he does change it. He's changed your offensive dynamics. Perfect. But interior defense, you don't have. We just played the Celtics, and the way the Heat matched up, I feel comfortable with. I know the game got out of hand in the last couple of minutes, but when I saw that, I'm like, this team could be underrated, and they could have more success in regular season than we did last year if we figure out that fourth quarter situation, Justin. I do believe this team can go on a sustainable run. And how you incorporate Caleb Martin, I know they're going to handle that carefully because you're looking also to Caleb Martin. He's up for a contract extension. And I know they've mentioned it. Is it going to cost too much to re sign him? We already drafted Hawkins Jr. That's an insurance policy if you lose Martin or you move Martin for another piece. So there's many options here. And what I want to ask you, Justin, is do you think the Heat will be intact by the trade deadline? Or do you feel there's a possibility of still moving Lowry? I know there's many scenarios out there. I know I got to give it to him. I know you weren't here when I first said it, but I do got to give the fact that Lowry came into almost in the best shape of his life. He is playing decent basketball. He refuses to shoot at times. He's not making mistakes, so I give him that. So he looks to be committed, and I do believe that we can win with him, playing a limited role. I don't believe Kyle Lowry is a 35-minute, 30, 40, 38-minute player anymore. Maybe in the 25 to the 30. But do you feel that there's going to be actual any changes, or do you feel that this core will ride out the year and be successful?
If there's an opportunity to give Lowry away for something valuable in return or even cash considerations, I would definitely entertain it. But if he's providing that leadership that your team needs, especially down the line as playoffs are getting closer, and you absolutely notice it, three words: never doubt Pat. Always trust in the Godfather. And look at what you mentioned that he's done with Duncan Robinson. He knew Max Strus was going to get paid by somebody with just how much hustle he had defensively. But the real thing is that's Heat culture. They'll teach anybody how to play tenacious defense like that. And Max Strus, undrafted player, just like Duncan, was a beneficiary of that. But guess who's been around the team longer? Duncan Robinson. Guess who's still with the team after all these years? Duncan Robinson. So clearly he sees that Duncan is not just their guy, he's a locker room voice. He's instilled that culture just like UD was. UD, undrafted player, overlooked in college, Mr. 305. Duncan, not exactly Mr. 305, but he's in Miami. He's embraced the Heat
Yeah,
culture. And you need staple guys like that in the locker room, glue guys, as they like to
correct.
say. He
Yeah.
believed in Duncan and said, Duncan, look, you're our guy. But if you're going to be our guy, you better play like our guy. Like, really embrace becoming the full player. We know we brought you up from the Sky Force to do one thing, to shoot threes, but now is your chance to thrive. We're going to pay you. We're not going to pay you like we're paying Jimmy or Bam, but we need you to be a leader. We need you to be a leader outside and show us what more can you do. And that's what I love. They believe in their guys. They develop their guys, and they let the guys who they know are on this hot streak walk because they're going to get paid. If Miami is great for one thing, it's getting guys paid elsewhere because they developed them so well, just as San Antonio has been for so many years.
Hmm.
Look at what happened to Bovan. Look what happened to, gosh, Matt Bonner, Tiago Splitter.
Yeah. Oh, we
So
lost.
did I answer the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What you mentioned is if there's any opportunity, absolutely they will make a move. And but if he's being productive, I know the still second apron thing is going to come into play because then it's not about paying the tax. I know people are going to talk about Mickey being cheap and the whole situation with Beal and Lillard, and obviously they didn't pull the trigger. But I do believe you have a responsibility to your franchise. Whatever it was going to cost to acquire Beal, obviously probably less than Lillard. I still see a future where I believe and I see it, I feel it in my core. I do believe this Heat team can win multiple championships with Hero and Bam as your core and Jimmy. Maybe past, a little bit past Jimmy's timeline, but I even see a core of Jovic, Hawkins Jr., Hero, Bam. I do believe they have the right pieces in place to have a perennial championship contending team like the Nuggets will have for the next 3 or 4 years. The Nuggets, people forget, were bounced out of the first round maybe 2 years ago. They were swept out of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. They're world champions right now. They're the number one team in the NBA. Like, I do believe Miami has this thing about instant gratification. You have to do it now. And I know it was 2 summers of rumors, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, and Miami's always going to be in that. The Miami Heat are always going to be involved when a high profile name wants to be moved. And if we don't get him, we failed. Pat is sleeping. No, that's not the case, man. In this case, we could argue that, yeah, maybe we could have taken a step above, made the better offer. I still think Miami's offer was better than anything the Blazers got in return, even with Brogdon, with Aiden, with Robert Williams, with the picks that they got. I do believe talent wise, they would have been better off with a Tyler Hero, with a Hawkins, with a Jovic. But it's either near or there, already passed. So I'm over that. I honestly I don't mind. I wish Dame Lillard success, but I do believe that we can beat the Bucks. I do believe that we can beat Boston in a 7 game series. I believe we can beat anybody in the East in the 7 game series. We're I do believe that the Nuggets, if this team was the team that played in the finals last year, I do believe we're going to take the Nuggets to 6 or 7 games. I do firmly believe that because I do believe in the talent that we have, and is developing, is taking another step. And sometimes people, yeah, it's would you trade it all for one championship? Some teams do, but I do believe we have a rare case where if even if we don't, the NBA is going to have so much parity that we're going to be in contention every single year. Aside from us being the Miami Heat, with the personnel that we do have. So, but that's just me, and I'm like I said, I'm trying my best not to sound as a homer. I'm just trying to think logically because I know in the East, Orlando's on the way up. I know Detroit is on the way up. I believe the Cleveland's window is might be a little closing a little bit before people realize that Donovan Mitchell's not going to be there for too long. Like I don't think people see that. Like I don't think he's going to sign his max extension, or if he does, he possibly be moved. But I don't think he stays in Cleveland far too long. And there's windows that can close rather quickly. Even look at the Memphis situation. Memphis was one of the best teams last year. You have off-court issues. You have injuries. You lose Dylan Brooks. You didn't lose him. You didn't want him, so you didn't even sign him. There are pieces there that teams could change right off the bat. Utah is on the way up. So I'm gonna say this, Clutch, and I'm gonna ask you, and we'll close out the show. I know we're almost at the 49-minute mark, and you can follow up, Justin. If we don't do a move, do you feel this team, as currently constructed, could achieve what you want them to achieve, Clutch?
Uh, honestly, no. I think you need something. You have one point guard on your roster.
Yes.
Two if you count Drew Smith, but what is Drew Smith? And you can obviously say RJ Hampton, but we still don't know what a developed Hampton can look like. He's still a two-way player who's probably not going to see the court almost at all this season, barring injury.
Yeah, just on spot on minutes or like emergency starts.
He's just going to develop into Skyforce.
Yeah.
You need a point guard, and this is probably the part where I go on my Josh Richardson tangent because he has been freaking terrible.
He looks off. Yeah, he looks off. He doesn't look the same.
And
Yeah.
I think Heat fans get caught up with the nostalgia of just having somebody back from before, Rook 2. Um, but you realize that during the time Josh Richardson was in the Miami Heat were not a good team. So, and just to go past that, he just hasn't been good. They're trying to play him in a role where they tried before. If I'm not wrong, they tried to play him at point guard in his first stint with Miami, and that didn't work out too well. Now they're saying he can be the backup point guard if anything. Trying to play a non-point guard as a point guard when I think the player in general just isn't that good anymore. He's solid on defense, but way too far too inconsistent on offense. I honestly think he's part of the problems that Miami encounters late in the fourth quarter when he's playing because Spo trusts him, Spo knows him, so he'll play him. But I think that's when Caleb Martin would probably benefit over
Yes,
Josh
one
Richardson.
hundred percent.
I pray to God that when Caleb Martin is at full strength, that they don't take away Jaime Hawkins' minutes and they
No,
limit Josh Richardson's instead. Because yeah, I think Jaime has been Jaime has been thrown to the fire. By the way, I know I'm going off on way a bunch of different directions to what you asked me,
no, but it's
but
perfectly. It's perfect. It's the construction of the team.
yeah,
I agree with you, bro. That's fine.
yeah, Jaime has been thrown to the fire immediately. If you've noticed, anytime he's on the floor, he's guarding Jason Tatum. He's
Yep.
guarding the best player on
They
the other
trust him.
team.
They trust him. He's that good. He's that good and that sound
Yeah,
defensively.
they're like, we
Yeah.
drafted you for a reason. Spo said, I'm gonna put you in there, and you're either gonna sink or you're gonna swim. I'm not gonna give you the easy matchup. You're gonna guard their best player because I want my guys, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, to have some energy for the offensive end. Uh, I like how the team is constructed. I think they have a very good amount of wings that can play basketball. I think
Hmm.
the big man spot is shored up for the first time in a very long time. You talked about possibly Orlando Robinson going ahead of Thomas Bryant. I don't like that. I think Thomas Bryant is great.
You know, I think Thomas Bryant is good, but you know who might they experiment at times over Thomas Bryant? Kevin Love.
They, I think they could in special situations, like for example, a playoff
Correct.
series where the matchup is just
Correct.
makes more
Correct.
sense.
Certain
Uh,
teams. Correct.
but I
Yes.
think, yeah, Thomas Bryant is probably the best backup center Miami's had in years.
Oh, for sure.
The best backup
Since
center Miami's probably had since Bam Adebayo when he was a backup center that Hassan.
yeah, yeah, that's
Uh,
true. That's
because
true.
yeah, Miami just hasn't had luck as a backup with backup centers,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's way more talented than Cody Zeller, Dwayne
Oh,
Dedman, all of them. So to have that spot shored up made a big difference this offseason. People said the additions of Josh Richardson and Thomas Bryant made a big difference. No, I just think the addition of Thomas Bryant made a big
man.
difference. Uh, I think he's great at what he's supposed to do. He's talented offensively, defensively. There's obviously some troubles there, but if he can just fill those non-bad minutes, I think he's just going to be just fine. And my last point out of everything, I think Highsmith has developed a three-point shot that I did not see coming
Hmm.
to the point where he's making it at a clip close to what PJ Tucker was making when he was in Miami.
Yeah.
And if he can play a PJ Tucker role, he's a similar build, right? They're
Yeah,
both like 6'5".
he's almost identical. I believe Highsmith might be a little bit taller. Tucker was a little bit stockier, but I
Mm-hmm.
believe Highsmith has more versatility. Like he's
Yeah,
quicker
and you
and
saw
better
him like
defensively.
not he developed the 3-point shot this offseason, but you saw
Yeah,
him last season in the playoffs getting an important steals off of Jason Tatum in the Eastern Conference Finals.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so I think Haywood Highsmith, I think eventually is going to settle into the starting power forward spot for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Eventually, they moved him in. Spo says, "Oh, it's just for now. It's not a permanent thing." I think it's gonna
Uh,
become a permanent thing because he's the perfect switchable defender that Spo loves.
hmm.
And yeah, I think that the team is very, very well constructed, but to make a run in the playoffs, I just think they need one more thing, one more piece. I don't know what you move to get that piece, but you cannot have one real point guard on the roster,
No,
and that's gonna end up coming back to bite you if you don't solve that situation sooner rather than later.
yeah, and I'll agree with you there. And before I kick it to Justin, I'm just gonna stay. That's one of the reasons I wanted Jay Rich to start over Kyle. I know he got hurt, so that was derailed because I feel the starting lineup. with Hero, Jimmy, and Bam, at any point, those three can initiate your offense. And ideally, you run your offense through Bam or Jimmy at the high post, and you let Tyler create off multiple screens. And I even floated ideas sometimes of starting Hero with Robinson, but I like Robinson off the bench with Martin and Hackett Jr. I felt that Kyle was a better fit for the second unit, just like it was last year, because you can make the argument like if they re-sign Gabe Vincent is the starting point guard. Kyle's still the backup two, the backup one. So I do see Kyle Lowry as a perfect fit to stabilize that second unit. But I also saw that eventually, even with Jovic, the times that Jovic has plays, the way he pushes the pace for that unit, they all play at a much quicker pace, productive basketball. So this team doesn't need a de facto point guard, but I get your point where you can't just have one on the roster. There has to be that presence that gives you stability. Do I see it at times being Jimmy Butler? I do. I do. And at times we can use Jimmy Butler to facilitate. And I think ideally that's perfect for him. He doesn't need to score 30 points a game because you got Tyler Hero. He doesn't need to be the best defender on the court because you got Bam Adebayo. And that lets Jimmy be Jimmy. He plays a safety and defense. He can play the lanes. Offensively, he will pick his poison. He can get to the foul line. You arguably have three-dimensional basketball players where from interior to mid-range to three-pointer, you can control the game at any given moment. I do concur with you. I do believe there's going to be changes. I do. I believe most likely it could be Kyle Lowry being moved. I don't see them moving Robinson. I don't see them moving Hero. I'll throw a name out there where he might be available and he might be a late season pickup, but you might get the annual Victor Oladipo talk where
Oh,
Victor Oladipo is added after doing during the time where he's eligible to come back and
it's like
healthy enough.
4 years in a row where Victor Oladipo is a trade deadline pickup, either coming back from injury or getting. Oh god. Uh, Another
Oh
player like
Victor
you're probably.
Oladipo's in the Rockets, by the way.
yeah,
Oh yeah, he's a Rocket again. Uh, yeah. So honestly you're probably looking at a if you're looking at trade people to trade away. You said Kyle Lowry. This is probably where you look at the possibility of moving Caleb Martin because of it being a
yes,
contract
because of
year
the
and
contract.
what,
Correct, correct.
what you might get paid. Maybe you just cut your losses and
Yes,
package two things together, a couple picks, and you get yourself a top 20 point guard in the league. I think
a,
if
a
I think a top 20 point guard gets you to where you want to be as a team for Miami.
yeah, man, and I honestly see that, and I always think about it, and it's not because of the monetary issue. When they drafted Hawkins Jr., I'm like, dude, that is, and obviously Bobby was the one that sold me on him, and I started looking at his film, and I'm like, he's basically Jimmy Butler, and last year that was my argument to bring Caleb Martin off the bench. You can't start Caleb and Jimmy together because once you sub them out, you lose everything. There was no bench unit that could replicate what they were doing. So it was like a conglomerate, like that's why the offense was so stale last year. The offense, even during the struggles this year, the offense looks like a free flowing offense. They look fluid. So I I do expect changes. I do believe I believe this core, when healthy and they're getting comfortable with each other, I do believe it could be successful. I don't fear any team. I know we might. Obviously, we're shooting with Hero and Robinson at historical clips from three, so I know that's gonna level out as well. But I'll throw this your way, Justin. Same question I asked them. If there are no moves, do you see what is the ceiling for this Miami Heat team as currently constructed?
It's tough to tell in this early season because they're not playing defense as particularly well as I'd like them to be,
Mm-hmm.
almost giving the game to the Lakers the other night.
Yeah.
So I assume they'll get that stuff shored up. But again, never doubt Pat, never doubt Spo. We saw an 8 seed sneak into the finals last year. So when playoff Jimmy comes in, I know he's another year older. Now he's got that emo phase going. So let's see if that attitude can carry him further, even, or just back into the playoffs with that sort of mentality that we don't care who we're facing, we're going to show up and we're going to kick your ass. So hopefully
Yep.
is still around and shows up, and that Bam continues the way he's going, joins in on the fun, and comes home with a trophy. There's always that possibility with Miami and this core. I don't know if they're good enough this year to get there. We'll see. Last year we had guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Struess who were key contributors. Caleb Martin was fully healthy and really picking up this team to where it needed to be. And of course, now we've got Tyler Hero back. Let's see what we could do with a healthy Hero, assuming he stays healthy throughout the playoffs.
Um, before we close out, first and foremost, obviously, I want to thank all our listeners for obviously for listening to us. Like, share, and subscribe with the network. We have some exciting news coming shortly this week as well. So always stick around for the multitude of programs daily around the clock. For fast break, obviously, we've been a little sporadic. My basketball schedule is going to start picking up, so there might be some days that we might be 2 weeks without a show, but I do want to have at least, I want to give you guys an opportunity. Obviously, for me as well, I love talking to you guys. So, Justin, when you're available, Clutch, whenever you're available, obviously to our X fans or Twitter fans, whatever, we'll keep you posted when the shows will be happening on a week to week basis. It might change at times at dates, it might change the time, but we're gonna try to be fluent. And even if we don't see us here, you might see us on East 10th Street Boys, you might see us on Justin's show. So there's a lot of things that we're gonna be doing behind the scenes to keep it current. And obviously, you want to enjoy the season. We want to express our points, our point of views, and I think it's just cool because we get to just share things that we see that sometimes you see for yourself, but it's always cool to see it through the prism of others. So, Justin, thank you so much for joining, bro. Have safe travels if you got to travel this week for work. Anywhere you go, man. Much love. Any final words for you?
I've got a big trip coming up. I'm going to Australia in December, so I'll be in a much different
Ooh,
timeline when I tune in
down
for that
under.
those months. Down under, that's right.
Oh man, that is great. I hope you enjoy. Oh, we'll talk. We'll talk definitely before. No
Yeah,
worries.
assuming Clutch, I don't know if you'll be in Europe still, but we'll be on complete opposite sides of the world, all of us.
Yeah.
Now, wouldn't that be a fun show? You got differently three different literal points of views.
Yeah. Last thing,
Clutch.
tune in to Touchdown in Paradise. Me and my
Yes.
guys do a great college football
Yes.
show, and it comes out, I believe, every Thursday or
Every
Friday.
Thursday morning.
So
Yes.
it is a podcast, not a live show, but college football season is full swing. Heisman race is heating up. Y'all be sure to look out for it.
Oh man, and they're the best in the business. Um, Clutch, since you've been gone for too long, basically the whole summer, we're happy for you. We're happy for your success. We're happy, uh, kind of like your new semi-permanent life. We can say it like that, right? Or
Yeah. Pretty
pr-
much.
pretty much, man. And I want to thank you personally, uh, bro. It's like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. where you're at. So this is completely out of the norm. Where kind of we're just here settling in, about to go to bed, and you have to wake up to go do something. So I want to thank you for being on with us, bro. Much love, and like always, I'll end it with fast break with any final thoughts.
You know what? I usually say no and then something, but I'll say yes. I have some final thoughts because
Go ahead.
I just have one little message to a miserable old man from Portland that really ruined my summer for 88 days. Really, I'm about to curse. Fucked up my life for 88 days because I was waking up early in the morning just to make a freaking post, and I'm tired of seeing Mr. Krabs every day for 88 days, and then you send this guy to Milwaukee. I hate you, Joe Cronin. I hate you.
I felt that from the core, from the deep core of you. And I just envision you, man, editing every morning. I'm like, this poor soul, bro. And at that point, I'm like, I just wanted to acquire Dame Lillard as a reward for your commitment to the excellence of posting at the same time every single day.
I need it. I did it, and I was like, you know what? It's gonna be worth it because when it happens, it's gonna be great. And then it didn't happen because of that miserable old piece of crap, Teddy
With,
Mother. You know what?
with With that being said, children of all ages, thank you so much for tuning in. For myself, Justin, and Clutch, which I hope we'll see you soon, but with nothing guaranteed. Heat Nation, just relax. Take on the Heat culture, the uniforms, the courts. And I'm trying to actually get them to officially change back the paint area to black like it was in the Miami arena, so we can get rid of that yellow and red. So Clutch, if there's any meme that you suggest, should I do a campaign like X amount of days to see if it changes or no?
I don't suggest it. It ruined my life.
All right, man. Much love, Justin. Much love, Klaus. From everybody here at FTSN. Much love, Heat Nation. Hey, we're gonna be in first place in no time. Take care.